And let's remember who the FBI is. The FBI, they infiltrate lefty organizations and they smear them and they try to dismantle them, and they try to they infiltrate and try to take them down. That's what the FBI does. In fact, here they are. This guy used to be former deputy director, FBI, and he's going to tell you how they influence elections, because they don't like progressives. They don't let people who are lefties into government. You think I'm kidding?
When you take the election and you take the House and you now convert all the committees that you have to investigating various aspects of the President of the United States, then your lifeblood has to be to react to stories. So you're going to see more stories planted so that all these committees can have a lot of work to do. And I think this is just more of the same. And I think we can expect more of this because, quite honestly, the electorate in some places is putting more and more progressives and self-described socialists in positions. And ironically, years ago when I first got into the FBI, one of the missions of the FBI in its counterintelligence efforts was to try and keep these people out of government. Why? Because we would end up with massive dysfunction and massive disinformation and massive misinformation.
How did they not launch a massive investigation immediately into what this guy said on that show? What? It was part of the FBI's mission to make sure you kept lefties out of government because we would have massive dysfunction. And so how did they do that? Well, they would plant stories and smear them and get newspapers, and they would control the propaganda and the narrative. They would get, you ever hear of COINTELPRO?
Right. Martin Luther King.
And it's not never stopped. They're admitting it. He's bragging that they do this. He's not guiltily admitting it because he's under oath. He's on TV. He doesn't have to say this. He's offering this information as a brag. Is that amazing? I just want to show you this. This is from Glenn Greenwald at The Intercept. And he says the Inspector General's report on 2016 FBI spying reveals a scandal of historic magnitude, not only for the FBI, but also the U.S. media. Historic magnitude. Now, I want to show you real quick how Lawrence O'Donnell covered it.
Your Republican colleagues were going after the FBI for mistakes made in FISA applications involving exactly one person, just Carter Page, who was never, in the end, accused of a crime. And eventually, that same FBI stopped seeking renewals of those FISA applications against Carter Page. The Republicans on the committee seem to treat this as the very first hint that there has ever been a problem or an irregularity in a FISA application.
So I just want to break down what Lawrence O'Donnell just did there. For his audience tuning into him to get the truth about what's happening and from the Inspector General's report, what he just did was he just gaslighted his own viewers. He lied to them. So what he's doing is he's like, hey, they're making a big deal out of what the IG report says. And they shouldn't, because what's the big deal? Well, what the big deal is that the FBI repeatedly lied to a secret court, which makes it extra worse because there's never a check there. Nobody gets to present their side of the story to the judge. It's just the government talking to the government. And that's why you have to have super good standards, because what you get, that's supposed to be fighting terrorism. That's why we keep it secret. But what they were actually revealed to be doing was 100% lying to the court and also holding back evidence that would counter, they're supposed to give all the evidence to the judge. They held back evidence that they knew would debunk their own case for getting a warrant on a United States citizen so they could tap his phones. And once they tap his phone, there's a thing called the two-hop rule. So if they got a tap on Carter Page, a FISA warrant tap on his phone, they can now tap anybody he talks to. It's called a two-hop rule. So they got him and anybody he talks to, they tap their phone too. So that means anybody inside the Trump administration or the campaign. And so he goes, it happened to exactly one person. Yeah, it's horrible that the FBI lied and changed documents. There's an FBI lawyer going to go to jail over this. And he's acting like it's not a big deal. Did I just show you how Glenn Greenwald, how he described it? Where Glenn Greenwald said the Inspector General report on 2016 FBI spying reveals a scandal of historic magnitude. And Lawrence O'Donnell just said it's a big deal. It's one guy. It happened to one guy. Didn't even end up getting, and they stopped getting the warrants at the FISA court themselves after they renewed it 3 times. And you know, each time they went back to renew it, they added 10 more lies, according to the Inspector General. Did you know that? No, you would never know that watching MSNBC or Lawrence O'Donnell, because Lawrence O'Donnell is a flat-out liar. He doesn't want his audience to know what's actually happening. And he brings on another liar, Amy Klobuchar, to lie about it and defend the FBI. He's pretending like the FBI didn't do anything wrong. I'm not making that up. That's what Lawrence O'Donnell did, right? That was pretty...
Yeah,
is that kind of jaw-dropping?
One person. NBD, hashtag NBD, no big deal.
Whereas that actual reporter who's a Pulitzer Prize winner... Is Lawrence O'Donnell a Pulitzer Prize winner?
I don't think so.
He says it's of historic magnitude. Who do I believe?
Yeah. I love it's the J. Edgar Hoover FBI building, a nice reminder of the man who they still name things after, who went after Martin Luther King.
Oh, J. Edgar Hoover.
Totally disgusting.
So here's what Glenn says: if you don't consider FBI lying, concealment of evidence, and manipulation of documents in order to spy on a U.S. citizen in the middle of a presidential campaign to be a major scandal, then what is? What is, Lawrence? But none of this is aberrational. The FBI still has its headquarters in a building named after J. Edgar Hoover, who constantly blackmailed elected officials with dossiers and tried to blackmail Martin Luther King into killing himself, because that's what these security state agencies are.
Yeah.
They are out of control, virtually unlimited police state factions that lie, abuse their spying and law enforcement powers, and subvert democracy and civic and political freedoms as a matter of course.
Glenn is so smart.
If it does not bother you to learn that the FBI repeatedly and deliberately deceived the FISA court into granting it permission to spy on a U.S. citizen in the middle of a presidential campaign, then it is virtually certain that you are either someone with no principles or someone who cares only about partisan advantage and nothing about basic civil liberties and the rule of law, or both. I would say both to Lawrence O'Donnell. You guys have been lying to your audience for 3 straight years. McCarthy smearing anybody who's a political adversary of yours. And now when the IG report reveals malfeasance at unbelievable levels inside the FBI, that very investigation you've been misreporting for 3 years, what do? You double down and you can continue to lie and defend the very criminals who are trampling our Constitution and creating a horrible precedent for future spying. You don't think they're going to spy on a progressive? Well, Lawrence doesn't care. He's not a progressive. He's love it. Any comments from, let's talk to our panel, shall we?
No, it's just an example, again, of how there's this pre-existing narrative, and they just they are so emotional. That's the funny thing. They're pretending that they're the honest,
yes,
rational, enlightened thinkers who care about the Constitution, and Trump is this, vulgar bully, which he is, but they should be concerned about things like this. And again, they don't realize how much they undermine the resistance by doing this.
I know.
And it helps
this
Trump's
bolsters Trump like crazy.
Because they don't hang out with anyone besides people like themselves and each other. So they go to their dinner parties and they're
right.
all really angry, and the walls are closing in, the slowest moving walls
ever. In history.
And they, it's a it's like an echo chamber. And they don't get what they sound like to people who are drinking the Kool-Aid. And again, I get tired of clarifying this, but I think it's important because, yes, Trump is terrible. Mm-hmm. He is terrible.
Yes.
And the reasons he's terrible are not because he clashes with the FBI and the CIA. Like, that is not the thing you focus on. You don't focus on him pulling out of military engagement. You focus on his trying to intervene. And
here he brings on Amy Klobuchar. And listen to how Amy Klobuchar defends the FBI. Watch this.
Revelations in today's hearing.
Well, my first revelation that I was surprised by, as you know, I've been out about the country, was just the ferociousness that some of my colleagues, and you hear this from the president as well, going after law enforcement, going after the FBI. I followed Senator Cruz.
Going after.
The powerless FBI.
Going after the people who are trampling the Constitution and lying to a secret court. Infiltrating a presidential campaign under false pretenses. You know, those people. Going after them. This is a Democrat propping up the FBI, which is the enemy of the left, which tells you she's not a left. Right. She's actually a conservative, which she is.
Right. And I was shocked because he literally said, you know, they're not Jason Bourne, they're Beavis and Butthead. He said that right before I spoke. I found it insulting to our law enforcement, and I literally started by saying, let's change the tone here.
And so, and then I threw a stapler at his head.
Yeah, exactly. And I threw a stapler. And I harass my employees who have the highest turnover rate. How are you such a? It kills me that she manages to be so boring and abusive.
Yes.
Right. So middle of the road and milquetoast and abusive. Like if you're going to be an extreme abusive person, at least have some like interesting politics.
I agree.
She also killed a duck while golfing.
Well. Come on.
I hold it against her.
I do.
We found, and as we outline here, are deeply concerned that so many basic and fundamental errors were made by 3 separate handpicked investigative teams on one of the most sensitive FBI investigations after the matter had been briefed to the highest levels within the FBI, even though the information sought through the use of FISA authority related so closely to an ongoing presidential campaign, and even though those involved with the investigation knew that their actions would likely be subjected to close scrutiny. The circumstances reflect a failure, as we outline in the report, not just by those who prepared the applications, but also by the managers and supervisors in the Crossfire Hurricane chain of command, including FBI senior officials who were briefed as the investigation progressed.
So everybody at the FBI, not just the people who prepared these documents, not the people who prepared the FISA warrants applications, but everybody, the managers and supervisors, and in fact, the head of the FBI. Everybody's implicated in what? Handpicked, 3 handpicked teams committed unbelievable malfeasance. That's what he just said. 3 handpicked teams in the most sensitive investigation possible. And they're still all over the place lying and cheating and deceiving the court. Why are you doing that? So you could spy on Americans? Yeah. But don't worry, because MSNBC is going to tell you the exact opposite of reality. Exact opposite. Isn't that something? That's what $30,000 a day gets you.
You know what I think is something, Jimmy, is the guy over his shoulder straight facing it while the woman is like, what the?
Yeah, she looks a little upset. Like, are you whatever?
That in the FBI's most sensitive and high priority matters, and especially when seeking court permission to use an intrusive tool such as a FISA order, it's incumbent upon the entire chain of command at the organization, including senior officials, to take the necessary steps to ensure that they are sufficiently familiar with the facts and circumstances supporting and potentially undermining a FISA application in order to provide effective oversight consistent with their level of supervisory responsibility.
That's what the IG said. That's what the IG said about the FBI. Lawrence, you gaslighting liar. That's what they said. Here, let's see what MSNBC said.
And he said FBI confidential human sources, undercover operatives, secretly recorded their conversations with 2 Trump campaign advisors, Paul Manafort and George Papadopoulos, and suggested the FBI ought to require higher-level permission to do that in a campaign.
So NBC's reporting that the FBI had human beings go interview people in Trump's campaign while wearing a secret wire and secretly recorded them. But you're going to hear that that's somehow not spying. That's not spying. Did you know that?
Can you bet? It's so awful how they're forcing us to like
Yes.
make these points. We should be going after Trump, and we have to point out
Right.
that they're
That the
being
FBI is corrupt.
liars. Yeah, we have to point this out. We have to spend time on this because it's dangerous for people not to know this.
Yep.
It's dangerous for the FBI and the intelligence community to be viewed as our salvation and our road to democracy, our ticket to democracy. And it's pathetic that we should be going after, you know, the resistance, whatever, blue media should be going after Trump in ways that are strategic and moral and not in ways that are immoral.
But they're not going to, because to go after him again.
Right. Would require opposing him for the right reasons.
Yeah, it would be going against who they are. They're the
Right.
people. Yeah. So let's. So there you go. So they're spying on him, and then look what the Attorney General says.
Do you still stand by your statement that the campaign was spied upon?
Oh, it's clearly spied upon. I mean, that's what electronic surveillance is. I think wiring people up to go in and talk to people and make recordings of their conversations is spying. I think going through people's emails, which they did as a result of the FISA warrant, they went through everything.
With us tonight,
and I'm gonna keep it going because I'm gonna show you how Brian Williams covered this.
The genius that he is. Yeah.
So that's the Attorney General.
I think going through people's emails, which they did as a result of the FISA warrant, they went through everything.
With us tonight to help.
So he brings on a guy from the FBI to help decipher exactly what the IG report said about the FBI.
Because they're so introspective and do so
Yeah.
much self-criticism.
Yeah. So I just showed you the Attorney General William Barr saying that, of course, they were spied on. And, well, here we go. Watch this.
United States, the senior most law enforcement executive we have. What is going on here?
He has to understand that the word spy, the notion of spying, is a pejorative. It's a loaded word. What the FBI did was lawful. It was pursuant to lawful court orders and their own policy.
It wasn't. That's the whole problem. That's what the IG's saying. You liar. So they bring on a guy from the lying FBI. What's that?
He's showing, not telling.
Yes.
The dishonesty of the FBI.
But he says it in such a sweet, soft-spoken voice.
He's
That
like,
it must be true.
Everything they did was legal. No, that's the problem. That's what you see the part I just played. The IG said 3 handpicked teams made all these. And by the way, he went on to say, when I asked them why they made these errors, they didn't have an explanation because they were lying on purpose. That's what they do. They trick the court. They hold back information. They're professional spooks. And so watch, it keeps going. Watch this.
And procedures. I am absolutely mystified why he would describe it as spying. It's not that.
How is it that in 2019, and again, he seems so troubled and laboring under this, we have an alternative version of the truth coming from, of all people, our Attorney General?
And who's making that observation about someone not being truthful?
Right.
Of all people,
Right.
Brian Williams, confirmed liar.
Documented liar, right. Documented liar who is so entitled that he couldn't help lie like multiple times about stuff that was easily debunkable, right? This wasn't something that wouldn't come up. I got to give Brian Williams credit. The thing that makes him great as a host is he makes his most boring, deadly guests seem dynamic.
Yeah.
In contrast, like this guy looks
He's a
very
broadcaster.
charismatic.
Yes.
The guy, the FBI guy, you know, he looks like he's just like, you really want to go dancing with him or something. He's jumping out of his seat compared to.
So we'll play
Brian
this whole
Williams.
segment. It's just so it gets worse. Watch this.
Right. He must have a political agenda. I among others, am deeply disappointed in him. I believed
he must have a political agenda. Unlike me,
Right.
a guy who's defending the FBI in the face of the facts. And then he's about to tell you this. Watch this. I used to believe what?
that he was a principled institutionalist. I said that and welcomed him to our Department of Justice when he was named to that post. I was dead wrong.
I was dead wrong because now he realized that we're spying on presidential campaigns.
And that's not principled. That's not principled.
I was dead wrong, and now he's just like lying.
He's
or
not
something.
a company man?
Isn't that something, Steph? This is amazing, right? Watch, it keeps going.
Comey wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post pointing out, pleading that he had been vindicated. The Inspector General was asked about this at the hearing today. We'll play that exchange and talk about it.
Former FBI Director James Comey said this week that your report vindicates him. Is that a fair assessment of your report?
I think the activities we found here don't vindicate anybody who touched this.
No, nobody vindicated. No, meaning the bad stuff they all did, they did, and it should stick to them. This doesn't exonerate anybody. Watch how they interpret it.
So, you heard the man's answer. Do you view it as a vindication of Comey?
In a top-line sense, absolutely.
Wow, what a surprise response.
So everybody's a liar. The Inspector General's a liar. The Attorney General's, he's politically motivated. The only guy telling you the truth is this guy, according to him. Yeah, well, I mean, the Inspector General, I said his report exonerated him, but when he said he didn't, he's lying.
So the only people telling the truth are him and Comey?
I guess.
In a top line sense.
In the top lines.
What the hell is that even
in
mean?
A top line. You see these words they make up? And he says it very soberly, very in a top line. And Brian Williams goes right along with him. Watch.
What the president has been complaining about for the last 2+ years, 3 years, is that political bias and political motive influenced the work of the FBI. The Inspector General said definitively that that did not happen.
So when the Inspector General says something I like,
then he's credible.
He is credible. And when he says something I don't like, I just said he's saying it anyway.
Right. It's like we saw that with Comey. It was an interesting Rorschach moment, right?
Yes.
Like the resistance they
hated
Comey
him, and then they loved him.
Right. And again, Robert Mueller lied about WMDs, but he was a great principled institutionalist.
Yeah.
Once he was looking into Trump, until he didn't hand over the goods. He
That's
didn't
right.
come up with the goods, at which point he was a inept.
Yeah.
Which again, just pick a narrative.
Whatever works at the moment. Watch this. This segment keeps going.
Now, the Inspector General also made a very important finding that there were numerous procedural flaws at the FBI in terms of
procedural flaws. It made it seem like I filled out the wrong form.
I didn't dot my. I dotted my T.
I was supposed to have a TC3P form.
Yeah.
I had a TC34 form. That's a procedural error.
Did you use black ink or pencil?
I'm sorry. I was supposed to use indelible.
Right.
That's what he's trying. Again, he's lying. He's trying to because he's trying to make you think what happened didn't.
Right.
So that's a liar. And there's a confirmed liar, Brian Williams, interviewing a guy who's lying at the top of his lungs right now.
At least it's on brand.
Yeah, right. That's kind of amazing.
Applying for and obtaining electronic surveillance warrants. That has to be fixed. That's a big deal. But I think Comey...
It has to be fixed. The procedural errors. You mean where they lied and lied to the court to deceive them so they could spy on a presidential campaign?
He also needs to shave his head. I'm just neither here nor there. It just looks terrible.
You mean his hair?
It's like a Brillo.
Yeah.
Can claim vindication, and properly so, because what he has been saying all along, and the Inspector General agreed, is that political bias and political motive never infected their work.
Okay, there you go. There's your segment. They go to the Inspector General. He said it doesn't exonerate anyone. Take him back to him. He's like, I think it does.
I'm going to push back against that. I'm going to push back.
And there's your MSNBC, ladies and gentlemen. Bunch of people coming on telling you black is white, up is down, and in is out, and they wag their finger at Fox News. And then you flip over to CNN, and you get to hear Jake Tapper telling you that Medicare for All actually costs more money than the current system we have.
At least... No, it makes me appreciate Fox News because they're dishonest, but they're entertaining. These guys are deadly. Like, if you're going to lie, you could make it so fun. You have so many restrictions lifted from you, right? You really should be making an entertaining show. So, just from a production standpoint, very disappointing.
Become a premium member and get hours of bonus material every week. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com/join. Also, come see our live shows. We do live shows all the time. We're going to be in Hawaii. Then we're going to Portland, Tempe, Sacramento, San Jose, Miami. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for all the tickets for all of our live shows. See you soon.